Okay. Shavua Tov, everyone. I'm happy that we're back to our normal schedule. We'll be looking next week, right? We're back on schedule in preparing for the reading which we're going to see this upcoming week. So this upcoming week, you guys are going to be reading a double portion, Behar B'chukotai. Because of Pesach, Israel and everywhere else there's been a discrepancy of portions, of weekly portions, but this is the week that you guys catch up to us. So we're going to be reading this coming week. We're going to be reading B'chukotai, and you guys are going to be reading two portions. Anyhow, we're back in sync. So if you guys can please open up to the very beginning of Parashat B'chukotai, that would be chapter, we're in Vayikra, chapter 26, verse 3. If someone can find the page and let us know, so we're all on the same page.
709.
Okay, 709. So as most of you know, some weeks the midrash that we see is dealing more with the nuts and bolts of the verse itself, and the midrash kind of struggles or really is concreted in the text itself. And other times the midrash isn't as much connected. This week I'll reserve judgment, okay, whether how connected it is to the text or not, but that was my short introduction. Okay, so we're looking at verse number 3. It's the very first verse of Parashat B'chukotai, and we're going to do what we usually do. We're going to read the verse, and we're going to ask questions. It's just this one verse. If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments, and then the verses go on and talks about all kinds of all the good things that will happen if you follow God's laws. I will grant your rain in the season, etc., etc. Goes a long list of great things that will happen, and then a little bit later on, the Parsha does the opposite and says, and if you don't, then these are the bad things that are going to happen. But right now, we're going to focus on the midrash. The three midrashim we're going to see are going to focus on this one verse. So we're going to look at it again, and we're going to try to ask, even though it's a very short verse, we're going to try to ask some questions. If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments. Actually, the word faithfully does not appear in Hebrew. It literally translates, if you follow my laws and observe my commandments. Okay, questions? I know it doesn't look like much.
What's the difference between observe and perform and the follow? I mean, tilchu v'tishmeru.
Right. Excellent. So that is definitely the question that jumps out at us. Why the two phrases here, right? And there's two different things. One is laws, and there's laws versus commandments. And then the other one is I just lost it. What does it say? What's the other phrase? Sorry, here we go. What? Right, we have laws versus commandments, and we have following versus observing. Okay? Now, and we are already accustomed to the fact that especially Medrash, this is the kind of thing that Medrash would definitely pick up on and say, if there's two different phrases, it must be referring to two different things. And it also seems to be identifying two different things that we need to do. We need to follow and we need to observe. If there's no difference between the two, then don't use two phrases. This is exactly where Medrash lives for these types of double phrasings and say, okay, obviously the verse is trying to tell us more than it's actually saying. Okay? Yes?
It's just a clarifying question. Are we ignoring the last part of the phrase where it says Vasitam Atav?
Um, did we not read that?
No, we did. We just keep saying that the five council that was mitzvah five tishmeru.
Oh, that's funny. Well, you are, first of all, thank you for noticing and pointing it out. I'm reading from an online Tanakh, and I'm looking at it, and it just does not appear. The phrase "vasitem otam" in the English doesn't appear. But yes, you're right. If you follow my laws and faithfully and observe my commandments, and you shall do them. So, okay, you have a question on that?
No, it's just the same question as it was asked before. Like, what is the difference?
Right. So we have here we have three different verbs being used, which seem to all be exactly the same thing: follow, observe, and do. So, kind of, our natural instinct would be to say, okay, this is just, repeating it in order to strengthen the idea. But again, as we know, this is where Medrash really kind of finds its place to come and say that the Torah seems to be saying, it looks like it's trying to say something more than it's actually saying. Yes, any other questions or attempts to answer? Any comments?
I believe that the reward is first off economical. Regarding the economy,
okay,
we are going to be rewarded with great abundance.
Right.
But then there is something very serious. It is related to the enemies and to the fear. We are going to be protected even from fear.
Okay.
So there is a lot of stake here. A lot of.
Okay. So. Okay.
A lot.
And how? So, and how does that connect to the three different ways in which we observe? Do you find the connection between the two?
What?
So you're saying there seem to be a variety of rewards, different types of rewards. So are you trying to correlate between that and the different verbs being used in the first verse of observance?
Well, there is a straight correlation, because without peace or without lack of fear, without security, without protection, there is nothing. We cannot create, we cannot live, we cannot do anything. So everything is related. Everything is related, finally.
Okay. Yes. Other comments?
Yeah, perhaps. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No. I'm just going to say perhaps we're going from some more passive actions on our part to more and more from passive to active features of our following commandments. So on one hand, we're just following through, and eventually we're getting to the point where we're actually performing. Very
nice. You're saying there's a progression there's a progression in the verbs. Follow is something which you do, but it is a passive. You're kind of tagging along behind. You're following something, someone else. Observe is more active, and do is more of an active verb, I guess. Okay.
And perhaps it ties in with what Becca is saying. I'm just guessing, of course, maybe as the rewards get larger, really your involvement gets larger, your rewards get larger. You're more rewarded for your.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Okay, great direction. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that fits well. Yes.
Why God is asking them if you will do?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
It's not commandment. You do with the it. You have to. Why he's asking?
Okay. Well, okay, I hear the question. It's a good question. You're saying it's phrased as conditional, right? You're saying, why is it phrased conditionally? Again, a simple answer. I think when we get into the Medrash, we'll see possibly a more in-depth, a more complex answer to that. But the simple answer I would give to that is because over here it's not commanding; it's kind of notifying. Listen, you already know what you're supposed to do. Now I'm telling you what's going to happen if you listen, right? I've told you already you need to do these things. If you listen, right, it's not saying here, right now, what it is they need to do. It's saying if you follow my rules and my laws, which ones? All the ones I've mentioned and I'm going to mention. Right? It's not mentioning anything specific. If you follow my laws, all of them, then this is what's going to happen. All these great things will happen, and if you don't, that would be the simple answer. But when we go into the Medrash, I think we'll see more. Okay. So the Medrash is going to pick up on something that we didn't. I didn't really expect us to pick up that much on. It does. It makes a big deal about the word bechukotai, okay, which means my laws. Okay. It seems that the Medrash seems to be interested in the fact that both the word chukah and mitzvah are used, and it seems to be superfluous to use both. Okay. And the fact that the word chukotai, my laws, okay, not the laws which I have given you, but my laws, that's the point the Medrash seems to be picking up on the phrase, and we've said this many times, the Medrash sometimes will take not only a verse out of context, it will sometimes take a word and say, one specific word is phrased in a strange way, or in a way which is unnecessary, and the Medrash comes and says, what could this word be hiding? What could be understood in this phrasing? So there are three Midrashim here. And although this is not our last class before Shavuot, it might as well be. It might as well be a Shavuot class. Okay? So let's see what the Medrash says. The laws, and it says this on the phrase, my laws. The laws with which I carved, okay, the word in Hebrew is chokakti. So it's a play on words. Okay, in Hebrew the word is im bechukotai, which translates into laws, but literally, okay, lechokek is to carve. That's why in Hebrew it's used to refer to laws, because we understand laws as being something which is ke'ilu, like supposedly carved into reality, right? Or into, the laws are carved into society because they're carved in stone, right? Because they're set. They're laws that need to be followed. So the Medrash says the following: the laws with which I carved, okay, and that's the word that's being quoted in the verse. I carved the heavens and the earth, and as it says. Thus said Hashem, as surely I have established my covenant with day and night, the laws of heaven and earth. Okay, the word the laws in Hebrew is chukot shamayim va'aretz. So in Yirmiyahu, when it talks about God creating the heavens and the earth, the word that is used to describe God creating the heavens and the earth is the laws of the heaven and the earth. That God created the laws of the heavens and the earth. We're going to continue reading, okay? And again, we're going to do what we usually do. What answer is the Medrash giving? And what difficulty or observation do we get from it? Let's continue. The laws with which I carved the sun and the moon, as it says in Yirmiyahu, thus said Hashem, who established the sun for light by day, the laws, chukot, same word, of moon and stars for light by night. Let's continue. The laws with which I carved, chokakti, the sea, as it says in Mishlei, in Proverbs, when he assigned the sea its limits, chuko, same word, so that its waters never transgress his command. The laws with which I carved, same word, the sand, as it says in Yirmiyahu, who set the sand as a boundary to the sea, as a limit, a chok, for all time. The laws with which I carved the depths, as it says in Mishlei, Proverbs, when he fixed chok, the horizon, upon the deep. So, first off, okay, and I promise you this is going to get very, very, very interesting. And I think there's some very fundamental ideas we're about to see. How does the Midrash understand the phrase that Hashem is saying, that the Torah is saying, if you follow my laws? How does this Midrash understand the phrase, my laws? What is my laws referring to, according to this Midrash?
To the entire law of the cosmos. The entire creation has been carved and prepared out of the same law.
Wait. When you say the law of the cosmos, what do you mean? Oh, like what were you about to say?
The law of the entire creation.
But Batya, you're right, but you're keeping it, when you say the laws of the entire cosmos, I'm not sure what you mean. But what Oleg says is, I think it's what you're saying, but it's more specific, saying the laws of nature. The Midrash seems to understand that when the Torah is saying, if you follow my laws, it's referring to the laws of nature. The laws of nature as we know them.
Well, what the Midrash says, it's much deeper, I understand. It says, if you follow all the laws through which I carved the entire creation.
What is it? But what does that mean? That's and what are the laws? What are the laws that God carved creation with? The laws of nature, physics.
The laws of nature. But it is saying that you are then an added part of the entire creation.
Ooh, where does it say that?
Because it's saying you are to follow the laws with which I created the beach, the sea, the earth, etc., etc., etc.
Yes, but what are those laws? Those are the laws of nature. The Midrash seems to be saying that the Torah is instructing us that we are to follow the laws of nature. Yes.
Yeah, but the laws of nature are to be followed by you, because you are part of this nature, of the entire. He's describing a chain where all the laws apply. So you are to continue the same law.
Yeah, okay, yes.
What I think Midrash doesn't understand exactly in Bechukatai Telechu. Because if it's law, if it's something that God created, Midrash doesn't understand how we can change it. Does it mean that Torah says that we can change it?
No. Oh, wait, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yes, because Torah says, does it mean that we can change it? Because what Midrash says that God...
No. We can't change them, but we can follow the laws of nature. But
he says, Im Tilchu. What does it mean? What does it mean, Tilchu?
It means that...
No, it means, I'll tell you what it means. It means, don't jump off buildings. Right? It means, don't smoke.
Right, it's not law of matter.
But, okay. It's the law.
Wait, yes. Wait. What?
How can you not to follow the laws of nature?
Exactly.
What do you mean?
Yes, we can.
Wait. Has anyone here drunk Coca-Cola in the last 24 hours?
It's no law of nature.
Of course it is. Of course it is. It's a law of nature that if you drink Coca-Cola, which just so you're not alone, I don't want to tell you how many cans of Coke I've drunken in the last 24 hours. You are going against the laws of nature because you're harming yourself. The laws of nature are that here, it says here that there's a difference between the ocean and the sand, right? God created the laws and created, there's a boundary where the sea is and where the sand is. Can that be broken? Can that be changed? Yes. Can a person go from the land into the sea and drown? Yes.
Does the idea perhaps that in the first paragraph that you've read, I'm just summarizing how I would understand it. God is Michelangelo. God is a sculptor. God who made the definitions, the lines. And the lines, he could have defined it in any way he likes. but he defines it a certain way. And later, I'm going to let you know where the limits are, where the definitions are, what those laws are, because I could have made any laws I wish. These are the laws I made, and I'm going to tell you later on when I give you the specifics.
Yeah, but the Midrash seems to be saying, and I expect you to follow and observe these laws. It doesn't. I understand. I understand what's troubling you guys. I don't think it's coming and saying that you can change it or not change it. It's if we were to go with a standard understanding that it's the laws of the religious laws, we can't change the religious laws. We can choose to follow them or not to follow them. But the Medrash here is saying again, we'll see the following Midrashim, which make it a lot more interesting. Seems to be saying the laws that I expect you to follow, this Midrash is saying, are the laws of nature. Yes.
It's in your best interest to follow the laws of nature. Like, you don't need any further rewards, because if you don't follow them, you're just harming yourselves. That alone is reward enough.
Okay, you're taking us to definitely to the conversation we're going to have at the end. I agree with you, because the question, what you're actually doing now is you're asking a question on the Midrash, which is, that's an excellent question, which is, it's the question to ask. If Mr. or Mrs. Midrash, you are saying that the laws that we are expected to follow are the laws of nature, why do you need to go on afterwards and say, these are all the good things that will happen to you? Meaning, you don't need to promise me reward. But I would answer to that. That would be like saying, you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, listen, you should start exercising an hour a day and eating more greens. And if you do, I'm going to give you a prize. You will live longer. Now, is the doctor correct in saying that? Yes. Now, you can choose, if you understand, one could say, well, I'm going to go back to the doctor. A better example is the dentist. The week before you go to your dentist appointment, I don't know about you guys, me, I'm much, much better at flossing the week before I go to the dentist. Not because I'm afraid of the damage to my teeth, because then I'd floss every day the same. It's because I'm embarrassed that the dentist, will see and what he's going to say to me. Which is silly. It's very silly. But, okay, yeah.
This is, I think it's an interesting approach, but you may disagree. This is sort of Spinozian approach to this. It almost reads to me that this is a commandment to study science.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But not in the sense that you said. So if you go back to creation, and the commandment to man is, I give you the earth to rule over it. And this Midrash tells us about the laws that will create, how everything in the world is run and was carved according to certain laws. And this, the way it describes, starting from planets to horizon, to going from high down to low of whatever, the sea and everything. So it's almost like what Einstein was trying to pinpoint his entire life, the unified field theory, and which the theory that the law that will make all the laws work together, because right now they don't. And so you have
right.
There's a breakdown in physics when you go to particle physics
and to theory of relativity. Yeah.
In a sense, what it says, if you follow the laws or you study the laws, you understand the laws, you can rule over the world in a way that it will be comfortable to you. So you will no longer be dependent on rain. Like drip irrigation is an example. You're not dependent on rain. You will make it work with science. So, but if you go back to in development and you just you keep your head to the ground and eyes closed, then you'll be at the mercy of the same laws.
Okay, so if this Midrash appeared on its own, then I think there's room to discuss your analysis of the Midrash. But immediately after this Midrash comes the next one. But sometimes in our classes, the sources I bring, I collect them from different places. In the Midrash of the Parsha, but sometimes I'll take it, they didn't actually appear in the order that I put them. But these three appear one after the other on the same verse. Okay? Let's continue to the second Midrash. And let's wait. Alex, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, it's okay.
I'll take that as a yes, but you feel the moment has passed. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Rabbi Levi, in the name of Rabbi Chama, son of Rabbi Chanina, said, laws that are carved upon the Yetzer Hara. That is what, I wasn't sure if to translate it upon the Yetzer Hara or against the Yetzer Hara. The translation of either one could have worked. Yetzer Hara is usually translated as evil inclination, but since I think that is a very, very bad translation, I just left it as Yetzer Hara. Okay? Laws that are carved upon the Yetzer Hara, that is what is said. Those who write, and in the Hebrew it's chokekim, same word, make laws out evil writs, chokim. Rabbi Levi said, it is similar to a deserted place in which bandits are common. What did the king do? He created a fort with soldiers to protect it. Similarly, the Holy One, blessed be He, said, Torah is called a stone, and Yetzer Hara is called a stone. Torah is called a stone, as it says in Shmot, Hashem said to Moshe, come up to me on the mountain and wait there, and I will give you the stone tablets, the Torah and commandments which I have inscribed to instruct them. So we see in this verse that one of the names of Torah is stone. Yetzer Hara is called a stone, as it says in Yechezkel, and I will remove the stone heart from your flesh. Torah is stone, Yetzer Hara is stone, let the stone guard the stone. So according to this Midrash, what are the laws that we are being told here that Hashem is saying, my laws, which you need to follow? What are these laws? They're not the laws of nature. What are they?
Natural inclinations.
What?
Our own natural inclinations.
Yes. Our urges. Our things to do. Our natural urges, which can be used sometimes in a bad way. Okay, like so. If I had to be more, seems to be talking about immorality. It doesn't actually say immorality, but things to do with natural inclinations which are negative. Okay, if I had to kind of categorize that in a way that I'd say bad behavior, not of a religious character. Meaning I don't have an urge to break Shabbat, because I don't have an urge to keep Shabbat, not keep Shabbat. That's a religious observance. Evil inclination to do bad things that are like immoral. So it seems to be, and it's interesting because the example that he brings, what is the example that he brings in order to make sure we understand what type of laws are we talking about? What is it similar to? It's similar to a deserted place that has bandits, thieves. So talking about immorality. And the king puts guards in order so the thieves who are there won't be able to do the bad things. Any thoughts, comments, questions, disagreements? No? Okay. To complete the picture, we're going to go to the third midrash.
I had a question.
Oh, yes, please.
How can the good and the bad both be referred as the same thing? Torah is the stone and Yetzer Hara is the stone. Like, you get confused.
Okay. Do you have a great question? Do you have a possible answer?
I wish.
Okay.
I guess you could take your inclinations and try to do good out of them. You redirect them. But
There seems to be right. So let's leave it open. Let's leave it open for a moment. Okay. We'll get back to that. But I agree with you. This is in this midrash. That is kind of like it looks like we're missing. Well, it looks like we're missing part of the message. Because it seems to be, and also like, what does that mean? The stone will guard the stone, and also, why a stone? Why is it that why is that the image that's being given here? And you would think of the laws of the Torah as being something which is much more than, meaning, why is it being referred to as one and the same thing? There seems to be a deeper message here that we're missing. I agree. We'll get there. Third midrash. And again, these appear one after the other. Rabbi Abba ben Eliashiv said, the laws which bring a man to the life of the world to come, to Olam Haba. As it is written, and I shall come to pass that every survivor shall be in Zion, and everyone who is left in Jerusalem, holy shall be said of him, everyone inscribed for life in Jerusalem. Those who are occupied with Torah, which is the tree of life. As it says, my son, do not forget my Torah, it is a tree of life. According to the third midrash, what are the laws that this verse is telling us we need to follow? The first midrash understood that the laws are the laws of nature. The second midrash seems to refer to the laws of morality, of the laws that come out of our natural behavior. And the third, what type of laws is it referring to?
So it sounds like the laws, those regarding our lower nature, the natural urges, as you say, and the other regarding our higher nature sounds to be like a coin with two parts. They sound like something that weighs the same thing.
Yes, yes.
Something we have in front of us, which we can take at any given moment to one direction or the other.
Wait, are you talking now, Batia, are you talking about the second midrash or the third midrash?
I am talking about the second midrash.
Okay.
No, I did not yet come to the resolution of it. So I'm talking about the second midrash. And you are right that I was wrong a while ago when I said something about following nature. I believe that in this context, nature is a quite negative thing, is a quite lower level. Nature by itself, with its limit, is a lower level. It's a material level.
Right.
We are meant to go behind that.
Okay.
Beyond,
right.
Beyond.
Yeah. I agree. And when you talk about the higher nature, so I think that's what the third midrash is doing. The third midrash is saying that is like, for lack of a better word, at the moment I'm going to use the word, the laws of the spiritual laws.
Correct.
I would say the third midrash seems to be referring to almost like purely religious laws. Now here's the thing which is really interesting. These three midrashim seem to be very gradual. And I think, for me at least, the concept that is revealed through these midrashim, for me, is one of the most fundamental understandings of how Chazal, how the rabbis understood Torah in general. And even though it's going to sound, I'm going to say a lot of things now that aren't written in the text, I think these three midrashim and the fact that they appear one after the other, and all of it is put onto this word, I think it is well justified. And I'm going to start with an introduction. Thousands of years ago, we started discovering the concept of science. When I say science, I mean the natural laws. The laws of nature, and we began to explore and observe and record and test and discovered that there is such a thing as laws of nature which are absolute and they are relevant to everyone everywhere. Gravity affects every single human being on the face of the earth equally. It doesn't make a difference how they behave. They are subject to these laws. These laws are part of reality. For a very long time, humanity did not understand the laws of nature, did not realize there were necessarily such things that you can't see, but they dictate and they control the reality to which we are subject to. But once we started understanding and observing and testing and so on and so forth, we were able to identify them and to describe them and then also to manipulate them and use them. About 50 years ago, Freud did us a tremendous service. And he revealed to us, we don't have to necessarily agree with everything that he said, all of his conclusions, to understand the great debt that we have to him in revealing that just like the laws of nature, there is such a thing as the laws of nature that are applicable to all human beings as laws, the world of psychology is the same. There are certain objective truths about human psyche that are true to every human being anywhere. There are certain, our psyche is built in a certain way, it's developed in a certain way, it doesn't make a difference. But some of the fundamentals, or many, or all, whatever, of the fundamentals of human psychology and behavior are true. Why are they true to everyone? It seems to be the way we're hardwired. The way we're hardwired, the way we developed evolution from an evolutionary perspective, whatever it is. But all human beings, if you understand the laws of psychology, if you've studied, if you've observed, if you understand, then you can understand why these types of behaviors are prevalent among men, among women, among families, among children, among adults. You can find the causation in the world in the human psyche. So the first and second midrash fit very well with what any human being today can understand and accept. That there is such a thing in reality called laws of nature that we are all subject to, that can be understood, that can be traced, and most anyone who's an educated person today on the most basic level knows there is such a thing as the laws of psychology, the laws of the human psyche. They're a little more difficult to identify, they're a little more difficult to trace, but they're there nonetheless. We do not create them, we are created by them. And the Medrash here goes on to the third level and seems to be saying, just like, it's like an onion, almost. Just like the physical world has laws to which we are subject, also the world of psychology, of our morality, of our psyche, have laws to which we are subject, and also our spiritual existence, not our body, the aspect of our personality that is not our atoms and is not our consciousness. And that is, for a lack of a better word, okay, our spiritual identity, our spiritual existence. So Chazal here are coming and saying, just like the physical world has its laws, and the world of psychology has its laws of psyche, so does the spiritual plane. And they might be even more difficult to identify. But 300 years ago, the idea of laws of morality, which are universal, or of psychology which are universal, was a ridiculous idea. We did not know that as fact until Freud came along. And the concept here is the concept of an onion. The same concept exists on all levels of our existence. And the Torah here seems to be saying, the Midrash here is trying to put onto the word bechukotai that all of these are God's laws. God created the physical world with its do's and don'ts, and the psychological and moral world plane of do's and don'ts, and the spiritual one as well. And they all come together to the consequences of, if you follow my laws, all of my laws, then all these great things will happen. Not necessarily, wait, just one second, not necessarily, and this is maybe a slightly different discussion, but I'll put my approach into it, not necessarily as an external reward, because if you are following your doctor's orders and your psychologist's orders and the Torah's orders, the chances of you having a life which is physically, emotionally, spiritually rich, both on an individual level and on a communal level, on a national level, it just makes sense. It would be a very logical, natural consequence because you are living by the natural laws on all of their levels.
I have a question. If this is so, if the three midrashim are exposed here in a gradual way, could we say that the outcome, the third midrash, is implying that the invisible world is the one that controls the physical world?
I'm not sure because the Midrash seems to be talking about the three independently from each other. Meaning,
the one speaks about the invisible world.
Well, I'd say that also the second Midrash is talking about the invisible world. The world of psychology or the world of morality is not a visible one. The laws of what is good and bad, that murdering is bad, and charity is good. This is not something which is visible. These are abstract concepts of good and evil, of morality and immorality. These are not measurable, scientifically measurable things. These are abstract concepts, but they're easier. It's a lot easier to point at these behaviors and analyze why they are positive and would have a positive influence on people's lives. So in that sense, it's maybe more physical, but it isn't physical. The laws of morality are not physical in any way, and they cannot be measured with a stopwatch and a ruler. Yes?
Each of these midrashim tie into the three verbs in the psukim. So the first one, tafu, would go into the physical one, the laws of nature. Ishmaru, where you have to work a little bit harder over your yetzer hara, your natural inclinations. And basitim, you go even further, all the mitzvot of the
okay, I hear that. That's nice. The Medrash seems to be putting all of it on just the first word, on bechukotai, because it looks And from a perspective of the methodology of Midrash, it comes and says, okay, let's see where this term, my laws, God's laws, meaning it understands it as not our laws, not the laws that God gave to us, but His laws. What are the laws? Where, so the Chazal, the rabbis of the Midrash, with their vast knowledge of the biblical text, say, wait a second. There's several descriptions of God's laws in reference to the creation of the heavens and the earth and the sun giving light and the sand and also the phrase law is also used in God, as far as God's laws in the sense of behavior, of moral behavior. The Midrash seems to be all putting it on what are God's laws, and not the laws that were given to us. It would be like saying, okay, what did the doctor tell you to do? I'm doing this because the doctor told me to. It's not the doctor's rules. He happens to be the one revealing to you the doctor is revealing to you what you do not know about yourself. You have no idea what foods that you put into your body will build your immune system and which will ruin your immune system. You don't know. But it's absolutely true, whether you know it or not, that these foods have this effect on you. They are the laws of nature that you are subject to, and the doctor is revealing it to you. So it seems to be saying the same thing over here. God has a lot of laws that are His laws. He created the world with laws of nature, created the world with laws of morality, created existence with laws of spirituality. And when it says, if you follow my laws, He's referring to all of them, then all these great things will happen. Yes, Oleg, you wanted to add something?
No, I want to disagree with you on one point. So when you talk about the mind and everything, so you do have conscious and subconscious systems within the brain. And then there's an ancient brain that basically runs all our natural inclinations and natural reactions to things. Like you touch something hot, you immediately take your hand away from it. So this is something that you don't think about it, you don't control. You can be only aware of that. So if you different spin on the same progression. So you have the laws of nature that everything around you. Then you have the second, and that's the beginning of creation. Then you have the second period where you're essentially subject to your unconscious, subconscious reactions, and you have to know them in order to counteract them. And to your point about yes, about psychology and psychiatry, and until you know what's causing it and how to treat it, you won't be able to counteract it. And the last one is, I think, it refers to our age, or where we sort of control. We're at the point where we can control our basic urges, and we're in control of the environment to the best of our abilities. And it refers to spiritual growth, because I disagree with you about the morality, because we cannot call Torah a book of moral behavior, because if you decide tomorrow that you need a slave, I don't think your neighbors will agree with you that it's moral behavior. And so you cannot say that it's a natural inclination of a person to know what's moral or not. It depends on the society and what's what is normal. Having 5 wives versus 1, having slaves and not killing a slave, but it's okay to beat them up unless it causes permanent damage. It's not moral. But at the same time, back in hundreds of years ago, it was okay. It was normal.
Today still.
And what I'm saying, yeah. So now, for the most part, we think it's unnatural and it's immoral. But back then, it was okay. So this progression from basic to inner understanding and spiritual growth commands person, to my earlier point, that to continue studying and not being focused on one thing, because everything is fluid. What we thought that was at one point idolatry was based on the belief that there are no physical laws, and then that some gods operate and run the world, and that's why you need to please them. Now that you know that it's not true, you know that like praying for rain pretty much not going to cause the rain to fall. Well, and probably some people would disagree, but you know that developing in a social realm and advancing morality is the way to the next world, to the final destination where the pure moral world exists.
The utopian world. Right?
Yeah. So it's always work in progress. But without keeping an eye on all aspects of it, you'll never get there. Because if you emphasize science over inner development, you will never get there. Because there are so many evil scientists. You will never. Psychologists or psychiatrists are not necessarily the most moral people. You see them go to jail all the time, and for whatever reasons. But it's always work in progress, essentially. Okay,
so I hear what you're trying to. I hear what you're saying, and I understand why you're saying it. Meaning you're trying to and I could even accept some of what you're saying. You're trying to make if I understand correctly, what you're saying. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make it more palpable to fit with a very, very kind of realistic understanding of how we see the world today.
Not necessarily, not at all. What I'm saying is you should. It's the way you look at your tools. Same way as you look at Torah. Do you look at it as a just rule of laws that you follow blindly, or you look at it as
something which progresses, something which progresses. So I think that's a different discussion. Meaning, what do I mean by that? I think the Midrash here, Chazal's perspective is not that perspective. There are other places which that type of perspective can be seen, or maybe you could just say, I think that you, and what you could say that you think that the perspective that you're bringing is more palpable and makes more sense. Very much could be, but I don't see in the Midrash as it's being presented here anything which is I don't see any processes here. Meaning they're depicting a picture which is very static of concrete, quite literally etched in stone, natural laws. I agree with you that the second Midrash, I might be putting more into it than is actually there. Okay, I agree with you on that. That maybe I'm trying to put more than it's in there. It says evil inclination, brings the example of thieves. So and I'm trying to say that this becomes a kind of like a symbol to everything that has to do with morality and therefore human psyche, and it doesn't actually say that. Okay, it seems to be talking about natural urges that people have and being able to, and following the laws of the Torah, that there are laws of the Torah that correlate, going back to the question of stone and stone, that laws of the Torah are laws that God gives us, whether they are written in the Torah or written in our nature, which correlate to our lower and evil and animalistic urges, which we are expected to not give into, and so on. But the third one, also, it seems to be very static. Now, I hear what you're saying. You raise some good points, which is, well, does this, is this? Do we really, are we expected to think that the behaviors or some of the commandments or some of the situations that the Torah is describing, like slavery, as our attitude today, that yes, it would be okay, it would be moral? How does that fit in? Excellent question. Excellent question. Would that be part of? But these midrashim are very, very. I don't see anywhere here where we see a process, or any progression, or any change. It seems to be 3 levels of laws that exist, and they exist in reality, and we are called upon to follow all 3 levels of laws: laws of nature, laws of morality, and laws and religious laws that do not correlate necessarily to natural urges or to science or to physical, as far as physical realities.
The great difficulty here is calling a stone the law that Hashem gave us, and calling the same stone, the same word, the other part, meaning the natural urges. So
right.
We are in the middle of 2 stones. This is implying that one stone should battle with the other stone, and we should be safe by understanding that the psychological, as you said, the psychological, the psychic, and so on and so on and so forth, is finally what controls us, and it belongs to the invisible. This is a fact. It's a difficult thing, this. The difficult thing about calling both stones.
I agree.
Both sides stones, yeah.
I agree. It needs to be thought about a little bit more.
But nobody said that things are easy, no? They are not
right.
easy.
Right.
Well, it does say this: stone guards from the stone. So the Torah guards you against your nature or urge.
Yeah.
The Torah, given by Moshe, is also called a stone, but it has the strength to understand the other stone. As I said, and battle between them. This is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Again, a lot of this is not. This is all kind of based on that one word, and from a perspective of the methodology, it's based on looking at other places where this phrase appears. But the perspective that the Midrash gives here, I think, is, and I agree that there's a lot to discuss here and to argue about and to try to kind of to figure out. But there is a fundamental perspective which I find prevalent in a lot of other places in Chazal, in Midrash, or in Jewish philosophy, classical Jewish thought, of this concept of layers, a single concept that runs through all the different layers of existence: physical, mental, spiritual. And it's the same concept. It's a similar idea to the fact that we'll find the same concept that will appear, let's say, in the physical. Anyhow, okay. I wanna try to cap it, to keep it to an actual hour. But this idea also widens our understanding. Chazal here are widening our understanding tremendously. The Torah is not just a book of religious laws, but that it is also referring to. It's not to come and say that the Torah is filled with scientific, do's and don'ts as far as eat your veggies, but it's saying that when it says God is expecting you to, yes, God is expecting you to eat your veggies, not because He wrote in the Torah eat your veggies, but because He wrote into your biology that you should eat your veggies. You know how God wrote it into your biology that you should eat your veggies? Because if you don't eat your veggies, you'll get sick. And if you do eat your veggies, you'll be healthy. So it is God's law that you should eat veggies and you should exercise. And it is God's laws that you should be moral and stand up against your inclinations to do bad things. Not all of those necessarily will be written in the Torah. But God wrote it into, but it is God's law. Because that's how you're constructed. Or how you developed evolution, from an evolutionary perspective. It's taking the concept of law and saying one of the levels of what God's law is reading what it says in the book of the Torah and doing those actions. But that's only the third level. There is two much more fundamental, there are two levels that come before that are very basic. You don't even need to read the Torah to know them. Look around you. Same concept running through all the layers of our existence. So it's a very fundamental idea that is a very prevalent one in classic Jewish thought, but this midrash is probably the first place where this concept is introduced, and I think it also offers a much more in-depth understanding as we come, let's say, to Shavuot and talking about the concept of the giving of Torah. It widens tremendously the concept of what we refer to when we say Torah, or God's laws. Okay? And I agree that, Oleg, the discussion that you're bringing up, it's an important discussion that's an offshoot of this. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom.